sudden. Catastrophic. Preventable. There's something deeply unsettling about watching industrial accidents unfold. In today's video, we will be looking at some of the most shocking infrastructure disasters ever caught on film. November 11th, 2025, Sichuan Province, China. The Hongqi Bridge, a 758-meter span crossing a steep canyon, had just opened to traffic 7 months earlier. It was part of China's ambitious infrastructure push into the Tibetan Plateau, designed to withstand earthquakes up to magnitude 8.0. But on November 10th, inspectors noticed cracks in nearby slopes. The bridge was evacuated. The next afternoon at 4:10 p.m., conditions worsened. A massive landslide triggered by a nearby hydroelectric dam struck the bridge's western approach. The entire western section collapsed into the river below, sending up a massive cloud of dust visible for miles. The main central span remained intact, but its western end now hung in midair, unattached and unsupported. Miraculously, no one was killed. The bridge had been closed just 24 hours before the collapse, but the disaster reignited questions about China's tofu dreg construction projects, where speed and political pressure override safety. January 19th, 2017, Tehran, Iran. The Plasco building was an icon, Tehran's first high-rise, built in 1962 by a prominent businessman. By 2017, the 17-story structure had fallen into disrepair. What had once been a shining tower was now crammed with hundreds of garment workshops. Fire extinguishers were empty. Safety warnings had been ignored for years. At 7:50 a.m., a fire broke out on the 9th floor. 10 fire brigades rushed to the scene. Firefighters battled the blaze for over 3 hours, assuring everyone the building had been evacuated. Then, without warning, the north wall collapsed. The entire structure pancaked in seconds, collapsing vertically onto itself in a cloud of dust and debris. 20 firefighters were killed, over 70 others were injured. Investigators later found that the building's owners, a state-controlled foundation tied to the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, had ignored 30-plus safety warnings from city officials. The collapse was broadcast live on Iranian state television, a national tragedy watched in real time. January 10th, 2018. Austin, Texas, a construction site near East Street, Elmo Road. A mobile crawler crane was lifting what appeared to be a large concrete tilt wall panel, a common construction technique. Workers stood beneath the crane as it hoisted the slab into position. Suddenly, a wire snapped. The concrete wall dropped. A worker standing on top of the wall fell with it. As the structure crashed to the ground, the crane, now unbalanced, began to tip. The massive machine collapsed sideways, slamming into the ground as workers ran for their lives. 2 men were transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators later determined that the crane had been operating on Austin's notorious black gumbo clay soil, ground that can be hard as stone on the surface, but turns to mush just 2 feet down. The crane's outrigger pads had sunk under pressure, destabilizing the entire machine. September 24th, 2025, Bangkok, Thailand. A busy intersection on Samson Road in the Dusit district. Underground construction for a new subway tunnel had been ongoing for months. At 7 a.m., police noticed water seeping onto the road's surface and closed the area. An hour later, the road began to collapse. Slowly at first, then catastrophically. The pavement sank downward, pulling electricity poles and water pipes with it. Cars backed away frantically as the hole grew larger and larger. Within seconds, a massive sinkhole opened, 30 meters wide, 30 meters long, and 50 meters deep. 3 vehicles tumbled into the abyss, including a police tow truck. The edge of the hole stopped just meters from the police station, exposing its underground structure. Authorities blamed the collapse on soil erosion caused by a leaking underground water pipe combined with soft, water-saturated soil. Amazingly, no one was killed, but the road was closed indefinitely. August 13th, 2011, Indianapolis, Indiana. Thousands of fans packed the Indiana State Fairgrounds for a concert by country duo Sugarland. It was a warm summer evening. The crowd was excited. Opening act Sarah Bareilles had just finished her performance, but severe thunderstorms were approaching. The National Weather Service had issued warnings throughout the day. At 8:39 p.m., a severe weather warning was issued for the area. Fair officials never received it. At 8:45 p.m., an announcement told fans that threatening weather was coming, but Sugarland would be out shortly. Officials were walking to the stage to order an evacuation. At 8:46 p.m., before they could make the announcement, a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust slammed into the venue. The 62-foot-tall temporary stage roof, a 32-ton structure, came crashing down onto the crowd below. 7 people were killed. Over 100 were injured. Investigators found that the stage's guy lines were anchored by concrete barriers that weren't fixed in place. They resisted loading only by friction and their own weight. When the wind hit, the barriers slid. The entire structure collapsed. The disaster led to sweeping changes in how temporary stages are designed and regulated across the United States. January 18th, 2019, Tlahuelilpan, Mexico. For years, fuel thieves had been illegally tapping pipelines owned by Pemex, Mexico's state oil company. In 2018 alone, over 12,500 illegal perforations were reported. The problem cost Mexico $3 billion a year. On this evening, thieves drilled into a pipeline carrying gasoline from the port of Tuxpan to the Pemex refinery at Tula. At 5:04 p.m., the leak was reported. Fuel began gushing into the air like a geyser. Word spread quickly. Hundreds of townspeople rushed to the scene with buckets, barrels, and plastic containers to collect the free gasoline. Entire families gathered in an almost festive atmosphere. Soldiers stood by, outnumbered and powerless to stop the crowd. 2 hours later, at 7:10 p.m., the pipeline exploded. A massive fireball erupted across the field, engulfing everyone in its path. People ran screaming, some themselves on fire. At least 137 people were killed. Dozens more suffered catastrophic burns. The footage spread worldwide, a horrifying reminder of the desperation caused by fuel shortages and the deadly consequences of illegal pipeline tapping. June 2022, an aluminum plant in Spain. 2 workers were operating molten metal equipment inside a warehouse. The facility handled aluminum heated to over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. requiring extreme caution and precision. Suddenly, a catastrophic failure occurred. Molten aluminum came into contact with water or moisture, triggering an instant and violent reaction. A massive fireball erupted from the equipment, expanding exponentially across the room. The workers ran as flames consumed everything in seconds. The roof began to collapse. Flaming debris crashed down around them. Security footage showed the blaze growing so intense that viewers described it as opening a portal to hell. Within moments, the entire warehouse was engulfed. Miraculously, both workers escaped without serious injury, a stunning stroke of luck, considering how quickly the room became a death trap. The incident highlighted the extreme danger of molten metal operations and the devastating speed at which catastrophic failures can unfold. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, please like and subscribe for more consistent content.